Okay, this is Group 1's presentation on formatting for correspondence. In this presentation, you will learn how to properly format memos, emails, and letters. If you never have to produce official documents in your professional career, you will still have to write memos, letters, and especially emails. These are the most important things to know how to format. And this is why this is why in this presentation you will learn how to properly format memos, letters, and emails. Hi, my name is Michael. I'm going to start us off with correspondence document formatting. There are a lot of gray areas when formatting letters, memos, and emails because they don't follow cut and dry rules like other pieces of literature. Some of the possible gray areas in formatting correspondence document design include you should always have a full block letter format for business and professional correspondence. You should put your subject line after the salutation. First, we say hello to someone, then we state our business. Um, as far as the subject line goes, should the subject line be written as subject or RE with a colon after it? Subject looks more professional. RE is more commonly found in legal writing, so it would. So I personally would stick with subject instead of RE, unless you're doing legal writing. For the reference initials, should you use a slash or a colon between two sets of initials when someone else has typed out the correspondence? You should use them as you wish, but be consistent with it, whether you use a slash or a colon. Um, Whatever it is, it doesn't matter as long as the first initials are both capitalized and the second initials are both lowercase. So slash or colon, it's up to your own discretion. There are a lot more gray areas in formatting for correspondence, but I hope this gave you a general idea about what to expect. Starting with memos, I'm going to teach you the proper ways to format a memo. Memos are typically sent within an organization between two individuals who know each other and each other's business titles. Memos can be between two equal level employees or between employees and their boss. Memos are short and to the point, as you may know after completing the paper number 1 in this class. Any additional information sent with a memo is considered an attachment. Um, a separate document meant to an attachment is a separate document meant to add more context, clarification, or information. The beginning of a memo starts with a format similar to an email. The letterhead for a memo includes the following aspects. First, a to statement, who the information is for. The to statement would be followed by a from statement, stating who the information is from, followed by a date line, and then a subject line, which is the title for the memo. There are multiple ways to format the letterhead for a memo. You can either keep it mostly lowercase with only the first word and proper nouns like names and countries capitalized. You can make it all capitalized, or you can just capitalize the first letter for major words. Whatever style you choose, make sure you stay consistent. And just a little tip, there is no period at the end of the subject line. Some additional add-ons you might see on a memo letterhead is the CC or the BCC line. These lines state who is attached to the memo. The CC line meaning carbon copy allows you to attach other people to the memo. This is the same as an email. Anyone who is attached can see who is getting sent the memo, and anyone getting sent the memo can see who is attached. This is not the case when it comes to the BCC. The BCC stands for blind carbon copy, meaning that anyone attached as a BCC cannot be seen by the person getting sent the memo or email. For example, if you send your professor an email and then carbon copy someone into the email, the professor, you, and the person you CC'd can see everyone in the email. But in the same instance, if you BCC someone to the email, to the email that you sent your professor, only you and the person you BCC'd can see everyone on the email list. The professor would not be able to see it. Let's say you wanted to show how your professor treated you over an email and you wanted their supervisor to see how they responded. By BCCing their supervisor, the professor would have no clue that there was somebody monitoring the email thread. This is helpful. When referring to a carbon copy, the original way of CCing somebody, it's an outdated old way of copying like just a regular piece of paper with the email on it and giving it to someone. Uh, After the BCC or the CC, the body of the memo goes next. As for the form of the memo, typically memos are formal. This is because the person you're sending the memo to is normally your peer. The only reason to change the formality of the memo is if you're emailing it to a VP or president of the company, someone who's way higher up in the food chain. Memos, like the one written in paper one, are typically a list of bulleted points. If there is a paragraph if there is a paragraph, the first paragraph is not indented and the paragraphs are separated by a space. You typically end a memo with an action sentence stating what the sender wants the recipient to do, followed by that would be the reference followed by that would be the reference initials of both the person sending the memo and the person who typed it. The very last thing that might be present on a memo is an enclosure. The enclosure contains additional material that the sender wants the person reading the memo to have access to. And lastly, the enclosure, just like the subject sentence, doesn't need a period at the end of it. Here is an example of a completed memo. Pause the video here if you need to. That wraps up my portion of the presentation on memos. I hope you can now go and send a properly formatted memo. Thank you.
Next, we will discuss the format of a letter. Next slide. Listed below are general pointers for formatting a business letter. All parts of the business letter start on the left margin and are single-spaced. Paragraphs are separated by a space. In the opening, the return address, date, inside address, and subject line do not have punctuation at the end of each line. However, the greeting ends with a colon. Next slide. All business correspondence has a letterhead. If the sender's address is in the letterhead, there is no need for a return address. If there is no letterhead, put the sender's title and company name in the return address. Attached to the right is an example of a letterhead. Next slide. For return addresses, if the letterhead does not have the sender's address, then a return address is needed. If there is no letterhead, put the sender's name, the sender's title, and the company name under the signature at the bottom of the letter, excuse me. The return address does not have punctuation at the end of each line. Use the format for city, state, and etc. There's an example to the right. And use the 2-letter postal service designation for states without periods. Most Americans are aware of the 2-letter abbreviations for the 50 states, but to your left is the well-known country abbreviations for the countries that most Americans do business with. Next slide. The date, inside address, and greeting. The date should be 1 or 2 spaces below the return address letterhead. It should be written out in full, not used by numbers. And the inside address gives the recipient's name without honorifics. In the next line, put the recipient's position or title. For the greeting, use the recipient's last name and either Mr., Ms., Miss, or Mrs. followed by a colon. If the gender is not known or not clear, use the first name instead of the honorific. Next. For the subject line, this is a very useful addition to full block business letters. It can begin with subject or RE, use normal capitalization, or it can be capitalized like a book title. Next slide. The text. So for the text which is also the body of the letter, the first line of the paragraph is not indented. They usually have a space between them. They are usually short and to the point, and they're left justified. The text size is usually a 12 point is what is preferred, and there is a single space between the body of the text. Next slide. For the closing, Yours sincerely or sincerely yours are the most common closings. Leave 4 or 5 spaces for a handwritten signature. Under the signature, put the sender's name, the sender's title, as well as the sender's company on the line if it's not on the letterhead. And as far as reference initials, if you didn't type the letter yourself, you use reference initials, which is the first set of initials is the person who authored the letter. The second set of initials is the person who actually typed it and sent it. You use a slash or a colon between the pairs of letters, and it's necessary because the actual typist needs to be identified if there are errors. Next slide. So for enclosure, which is additional material that's sent in the letter, you can spell the word out enclosure. You are always safe writing the word in full. Note that a colon comes after whatever designation you use before the description of the material that is included. If there is more than one page for a business letter, the first page is not numbered. However, if the letter goes into 2 or more pages, the second page is numbered starting with the number 2. And you can also put the page numbers in the footer, usually at the bottom of the page, centered in the middle. Next slide.
Memo and letter exercises. I'm Tyler Arwood, and I'm going to be going over a couple of exercises from the book that deal with how we actually put together a message, whether it be a memo, an email, or a letter. We're going to be looking at the same set of information, but see how it shifts depending on where it's going, like the difference between a formal internal memo and just sending a professional email. It's basically about making sure your formatting matches the situation you're in. Next slide. Starting with the first exercise or the exercise on page 140, we're going to be looking at a scenario where Penelope Anderson, a general manager, needs to give her financial manager an update on some mutual fund investments. The prompt gives us a bunch of specific details to juggle, like the company address, CCing the president, and the fact that a secretary helps with the formal version while Penelope handled the email herself. The goal here is figuring out how to put together the message so the formal pieces land in the right spot and whether it's on paper or digital. Next slide. And here's how that looks when we actually put it all together. On the left, we have the formal memo. Since this is on company letterhead, it's got the official header and physical address for the archives. If you look at the bottom, I included the reference initials PA/LK. The book explains that we capitalize the author and keep the typist in lowercase. And then now the emailed memo on the right it's a lot more direct. You don't need the physical address because the email header already shows who it's from. There's also a small change in the wording. Enclosure on the left becomes attachment on the right. It's a simple detail, but it shows that you're using the right terminology for the platform that you're using. Next slide. Next, we'll be moving to page 149 on the letter exercise. And then, while memos are usually for people inside your company, this exercise is about a business letter, which is what you'd send to someone outside of the organization. Here, Penelope is writing to the president of an investment firm. This one's a little bit more old school, and we have to use the full block letter style and get the spacing just right. We've also got an annual report to include as an enclosure. This format is a lot more ceremonial than a memo. So the layout is really what helps make that first impression when someone opens the envelope. Next slide. And then here's the answer for the letter exercise, and you can see that the full block style in action. Everything is lined up on the left so it looks clean and organized, unlike the memo. We put the full address for the person receiving it at the top. That way, even if the envelope gets tossed, the document itself has all the contact information right there. I also added a formal subject line so the reader knows exactly why we're writing before they even get into the text. At the bottom, we've got yours sincerely with a space for a signature. And even though the initials at the bottom show someone else typed it, the printed name and title make it clear exactly who the message is coming from. Next slide. And the big takeaway here is that even though email is fast, it shouldn't be messy. The header in an email, we let the system handle the to, from, and subject lines so that we can focus on the message itself. We use greetings even in email, like Dear Dr. Smith or a professional good morning is still the standard. The tone we want to be conversational but still professional, usually keeping paragraphs to around 5 or 7 sentences so that it's easy to read on a screen. And then the sign off, you always want a clear closing and a signature block with your information. Basically, whether it's a formal letter or a quick email, the goal is to just make it as easy as possible for the other person to understand what you need. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you for watching.